So let's move to the next question. And next question is not related to like any interview, anything. I just want to share some experience, like how people are managing, or how at least I'm managing my Kubernetes cluster. So I have shown you one of the tool called Kind, through which you can spin up your own like a test cluster in few seconds or few minutes. Now you have seen that I am running a bunch of commands over here, right? kubectl get pod or get pdb and get nodes and everything, right? Anyone who is starting with Kubernetes, or let's say this command is fine if I'm managing like a 1 pod, 10 pod, okay? Uh, in my case, I need to manage like 100 of pods in my environment. There is no way I can go to each and individual node. In case if there is issue, if I need to log into this particular node, or I need to check the logs for this particular, if I need to check the log for this particular node or any pod, it's not uh, like practically impossible to run all these commands on this, right? Or even if I'm starting with new to the Kubernetes, I don't want to remember all these commands. So there should be some tool which will do our task, which will do the task for us. So the one tool which I really like is called k9s CLI. Installation is pretty straightforward. It's just one command which you need to run. Like if you're running on Mac OS, it's just one thing. Even in Linux, it's pretty straightforward. So let me show you this. I already have this running, k9s, and you can run this command called k9s. And you will see the same thing, that the get pod command that I was running, I can see all the pods which are running in my system at that time, in this time. Okay. Let's say I want to see what are all the deployment which is present on my system. Okay. I know we haven't talked about deployment, but so the way I can see it with the help of Kubernetes get deployment command. Okay. But I don't want to memorize this command. So what I can do, colon, and then I will say deployment. See, I will get the deployment information. Similarly, if I want to see services, colon, again, service. I have this service. Again, if I need to go back to the pod, colon, pod. So I just need to remember colon and then whatever it is. Okay. Now this is going to the different resources we have in Kubernetes. Let's stick to the one thing like the pod, right? In case of pod, these are all the pod which are running in my default namespace. What about all the pod which has been spun up? Like so far we have discussed about like control plane component, like API servers and everything. So again, if you know about the Kubernetes, that will spin up in something called a kube system namespace. And in order to see all those pods which are running, see, 1 is for default namespace, 0 is for all. So you just need to press something called 0. And now you will see all the pods which is running on your system. So for example, this kube proxy, this kube scheduler, which we have discussed, the etcd, core DNS, I think we haven't discussed about it, but let's pause here. I mean, let's not worry about it. The kube API server, right? So I do not, if in case if I need to do it over like this, I need to see Kubernetes get pod -n kube -system. Okay, or I can simply give hyphen. So rather than memorizing all these commands, I just need to see this over here, 0 for all and 1 is for default. In order to go back to the default namespace, I just need to press 1. Okay. Now let's see some more important tasks. For example, I need to see what exactly the any activity which is happening in this particular pod. So I can see over here like this, and here if I press L, it will show me the logs for this particular container. Right now, there's no activity which is going on in this pod. So that's why you don't see any logs. But if you press L, you will see the logs, right? Just to came back to the particular screen, you just need to press escape. Similarly, if I need to describe the pod, I just need to do D. And it will give me all the information. Like I don't need to memorize kubectl describe command. Similarly, if I need a shell access to this pod, I can just do S. Okay, now I'm in the shell of that particular container or pod. Need to get out of it, press exit. Even if I need to delete that particular pod, I can do that with the help of Control D. See, and because this is running as a part of that deployment, under the hood, I told you the lots and lots of controller manager which is running. So even if I have deleted that pod, the one pod, again the new pod will be spin up. Okay. If I need to edit a particular pod, I can do E. And now I'm on the screen where I can edit a pod. Let's say I want to change the image. I can even change the image over here. Okay. So basic idea is you do not need to memorize a bunch of Kubernetes command if you have a tool like this, where you can just do it. And I mean, you need to get used to it. And after that, you just need to see all these options which are available. If you want to see all the help options, just press Q, and Q will tell you all the commands or the help option which is supported by this one. And press escape back to the original screen. And from now onwards, we are going to use this k9s. Okay. One more tool I want to share it with you guys. Hopefully I'm able to share my screen. It's called Lens. So I love this tool, k9s. I was using it. The problem is like, this is fine if I'm managing one or two cluster or anything. The things will become complicated for me if I need to manage a cluster. So for example, in my environment, I have some cluster from AWS, some cluster, Kubernetes cluster from GCP and all those things. And then in that case, it becomes really difficult for me to do a context switching from one cluster to another, especially if it's by the different cloud provider. So then I stick to this tool called Lens. This is super, super awesome. It's have a lot of nice UI through which you can do a lot of things. The only problem with that this, I forget the name, I think it's VMware or some other company who acquired this tool and now they make it as a paid version. Lens desktop acquisition. It's some company who's, Mirantis acquired Lens. So now they made it as a paid offering. Otherwise, if your company provides this tool, I will highly, highly recommend. This is super, super awesome. I mean, in case if you are managing a different clusters like AWS, GCP and all, it will give you all these wealth of information. But in a lightweight environment where you don't need to do a lot of context switching between the different providers, K9 I highly, highly suggest.